Welcome to the playoff push for Week 25 with Simon Borg. I'm Jason Saghini. Coming up on the show, the Portland Timbers chop their way back into the playoff picture. Chivas USA regrets missed opportunities, and 2 wins in a row for the Chicago Fire. Are they back in the playoff picture? But first, Simon, let's take a look at where teams stand after this week's action.
We start in the West, Jason, where LA, Seattle, and Dallas really have a firm grip on those 3 automatic spots out west. But different story in the East, where Columbus, Sporting, and Houston all lost over the weekend, really opening it up for other teams in the Eastern Conference to make a go at those 3 spots. Then you look at the wild card. Again, difference between East and West here. You have the Rocky Mountain rivals, the Real Salt Lake and Colorado Rapids, who are ahead by a lot. 5 points is a lot over the other 2 wild card teams, Philadelphia and New York, who now have the Portland Timbers right behind them.
And the Portland Timbers are one of our biggest movers. So the Portland Timbers get a huge victory over Chivas USA, who they are fighting with for those last playoff spots.
And that win takes them level on points with the New York Red Bulls on 32. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season? But it was a win at home where they're comfortable and on a goal that comes off their preferred way of scoring, the set piece. I think they're going to have to score in other ways and also do it away from home if they're going to make the postseason.
All right, our other 2 big movers are Dallas and Seattle. They didn't necessarily move places in the standings, but they did create a little space between them and the Colorado Rapids.
Both Dallas and Seattle coming up with big wins against difficult opponents from out east. Columbus Crew #1 in the East, Sporting Kansas City #2 in the East. And what makes these wins important is that Real Salt Lake still have several games in hand, and they could present themselves as possible contenders for one of those top 3 spots.
All right, next up, missed opportunities. Going into the week, Chivas USA had a huge chance to make a dent in the playoff standings, and they were not able to do it, losing both games against competitors for those last playoff spots.
Those 2 teams, the Portland Timbers and Real Salt Lake, currently in the wild card picture. But the saving grace and what Robin Fraser is going to tell his squad, 5 of the last 7 games for Chivas USA will be played at the Home Depot Center in LA.
All right, next up, Stayin Alive. With some new players in and 2 straight wins, the Chicago Fire are feeling good about themselves. But Simon, the question is, are they still in the playoff mix realistically?
I think mathematically they'll continue to trumpet that, but 5 points is too big of a gap to make up, and there are too many teams in between them and that final wild card spot. So for Chicago, I think they're capable of putting a string of games together. They've been competitive in many of the matches they've played, but I think it's too tall a task.
All right, finally, let's take a look at some of the games to watch this weekend. Pointing to the games to watch this weekend is pretty easy because there's only 2 of them. We'll start with the Philadelphia Union traveling out west to Utah to take on Real Salt Lake.
And the entire Western Conference is going to be watching this game closely. This is one of those 4 games in hand that Real Salt Lake has. And Real Salt Lake, they probably will tell you that they're in the Supporters Shield discussion as far as they are concerned. And other teams, though, will want to see if they'll make a serious push at those top 3 automatic spots. For Philadelphia, after this recent run they've been on where they haven't put together some good results, a win in Salt Lake would go a long way to really striking fear back into the opponents in the East. They're also going to want to stay away from that wild card scrum and get back into the discussion for the Eastern Conference Championship.
The second game has the LA Galaxy traveling out to Kansas City to take on Sporting KC on Monday afternoon.
And it's an insecure Sporting Kansas City side after they gave up a 2-0 lead at home and lost to FC Dallas. They're unsure about whether they know how to close out games. The worst thing that they want right now is to face the league-leading LA Galaxy.
Yeah, and the LA Galaxy now in a battle for the Supporters Shield with Seattle and FC Dallas chasing them. Remember, the winner of the Supporters Shield has the easiest route through the playoffs. So the Galaxy obviously want to get a result out there in Kansas City. Enjoy the Labor Day action. We will be back next week with more to give you a look at the playoff picture as it develops.